Welcome back to Right on the Edge. I'm going to be reacting to a few more of these unsolved mysteries from Washington State and giving my insight on them. Now, trying this like a shorter video thing, see if the algorithm likes it a little bit better, see if people like it a little bit better, and well, let me know what you guys think. Obviously, I need to shave, but let's get back into this video where it looks like the next thing that they're going to be talking about is Mel's Hole. Now, Mel's Hole is a very known story around here. So essentially, what happened with Mel's Hole is this guy writes into this radio show called Something AM, and they are, um, for lack of a better word, they're a radio show that covers people's paranormal or unexplained experiences. So Mel's Hole was apparently this hole on a piece of land that he owned that the community had been using as like a trash dump for decades. I mean, like decades and decades, supposedly. And there's a wall around it to stop people from, falling into it. And this guy claimed no matter what he threw in there, like appliances, trash, animal remains, whatever it was, nothing, like you would never hear any sound. He also claimed that he put 80,000 feet worth of like fishing line down there and never hit the bottom. He claimed he claimed a lot of things. Like it was crazy. He claimed that animals avoided it, birds wouldn't fly over it. Like there's a ton of things he claimed, but uh Mel's Hole is one of those things that's like it's super interesting. Um so let's see how this guy covers it. And obviously I probably missed a few details, right? Like, I'm not perfect. I just did that from memory, but let's watch and find out. Well, wait, before we start, I will be right back. But you won't know, because I'll just right back. All right, let's get into it. Let's watch it.
On February 21st, 1997, a strange fax arrived at the offices of Coast to Coast AM, the late night radio show
I knew it was something AM, right? Coast to Coast AM makes a lot more sense.
known for exploring the paranormal. The sender identified himself as Mel Waters, a rural property owner from eastern Washington. His message was simple and extraordinary. Mel claimed he'd discovered a hole on his land that defied all explanation, a hole that appeared to be bottomless. That night, radio host Art Bell brought Mel on the air, and what followed would become one of the most talked about episodes in the show's history. The story captured imaginations across the country and sparked an enduring obsession with a mysterious location in the hills.
It sure got my imagination going. Like, it was kind of like a wonder thing,
Near Ellensburg, Washington. According to Mel, the hole was exactly 9 feet across, ringed by a 3-foot-high stone wall. Locals had used it as a dumping site for decades, yet it never filled. No matter what he dropped in, trash, appliances, animal remains, nothing ever made a sound. No impact, no echo. Determined to measure it, Mel began lowering fishing line with a weighted spool. He claimed he reached over 80,000 feet of line.
Which I would just gonna say that'd be impossible. Like the Mariana Trench is like 36,000 feet. This is impossible due to several reasons. One's just like gravity,
More than 15 miles without touching bottom. For comparison, the Mariana Trench, the deepest known point on Earth, is just under 36,000 feet deep. But the story didn't end there. Mel claimed animals avoided the hole. Birds wouldn't fly over it. He said he once lowered a package of Lifesavers candy to test for...
I didn't know he did this. I didn't know he lowered a packet of Lifesavers. I missed that packaging.
...for water, and they came back dry. Then came the story that cemented the legend. A neighbor, Mel said, had thrown his deceased hunting dog into the pit. Weeks later, the man claimed to see the same dog alive in the woods, wearing the same collar, but strangely altered. The dog didn't respond to its name and ran off when approached. The tale took a darker turn. Mel said government agents showed up, sealed off the land, and claimed a military training exercise was underway. When Mel protested that it was private property, he said he was threatened. According to him, officers
They're apparently like get bent.
offered him $250,000 per month to lease the land.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do it in a heartbeat. You hear that, officers? You pay me, man. I'll leave. I'm out.
And then sent him to Australia for undisclosed medical treatment. When Mel returned, he claimed the deal had collapsed. His ex-wife had violated the lease, his money was gone, and his property was now under government control. Despite the wild claims, no public records ever confirmed that anyone named Mel Waters lived in Kittitas County. Investigators and journalists have searched for the hole, but its exact location, if it exists, remains a mystery. Geologists are skeptical.
I would say it doesn't exist, but in all honesty, it's an interesting story, though.
Jack Powell, a state geologist, investigated the claims and found a likely origin: an old mine shaft roughly 90 feet deep on private land. He explained that a hole as deep as Mel described would be geologically impossible. It would collapse under the pressure of surrounding rock layers. Still, the legend refuses to fade. Mel's hole has inspired documentaries, podcasts, art exhibitions, and countless treasure hunters searching the hills
I didn't know about the art. That's kind of a surprise to me. Inspired artists.
of Washington state. Whether it was a hoax, a hallucination, or something stranger, Mel's story tapped into something deeper: our fear of the unknown.
I don't think so. I completely disagree that it tapped into our fear of the unknown. I think it tapped into humans' explorer spirit. And let me explain that. Um, Humans, we don't just tend to, like, a lot of us do, but there will be humans who will look at a mountain and think, I'm going to climb that. Like, when I think of a new trail, I'm like, I'm going to defeat this trail. When I heard about the headless forest in the Nahanni National Forest in northern British Columbia, I didn't think, oh no, the unknown. I was like, holy shit, could that be true? I want to go there, right? This is part of what makes humans amazing, and I don't think we should belittle it. Like that sort of like adventurous spirit, like to find what's lost, is something that makes us amazing, and we should be proud of it.
And our fascination with what lies beneath. No proof has ever surfaced, but in the minds of many, the hole is still out there,
Hole is still out there. The hole is there.
waiting to be discovered. On January
I know nothing about this except for the fact that this was kind of before my time of being interested in things. Like kind of during the first rise of the internet. I know this guy was like a real estate agent and he was murdered in some weird way.
January 4th, 2001, real estate agent Mike Emmert scheduled what should have been a routine appointment: a second showing of a $589,000 home in Woodinville, Washington.
That same home today is probably like worth 3 times that amount. It's probably worth over like 1.5 million.
By 12:30 p.m., he would be dead, found brutally murdered in the bathtub, setting off one of the most perplexing cold cases in state history. Mike Emmert was living the dream, a top producing agent at Windermere Real Estate. He'd been named Realtor of the Year and twice listed among the Puget Sound's best. He and his wife, Mary Beth, were described as soulmates. They lived comfortably in Redmond, raising Mary Beth's daughter together. The day before the murder, Mike met a prospective buyer who introduced himself only as Stephen. They spoke in the food court of the Kirkland Park Place shopping mall. Stephen claimed he was relocating from Northern California and expressed interest in the Woodinville property.
Okay, typical story, typical guy.
But several things about him were off. He'd bypassed Mike's office to set up the meeting directly.
This is common, I think.
He insisted on meeting at a neutral public location, and he shared vague details, including a claim that he would soon come into money, possibly from an inheritance. Stephen was described as a man in his 50s with a limp, a cane, and what sounded like an East Coast accent. That night, when Mike told Mary Beth about the strange client, she had a bad feeling. The next morning, Mike noted Stephen in his planner, the 11:30 a.m. meeting. He even joked to a colleague that he was going to meet up with a, quote, weird dude. Once again, the two met in the mall parking lot before driving separately to the vacant home. At 12:30 p.m., the homeowner, Gail Garland, came home for lunch. She noticed the front door was ajar. Inside, she followed a trail of blood upstairs and found Mike's body in the bathtub, the shower still running. He'd been stabbed 19 times.
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of times.
Possibly with a long
Okay, man, you can't use conjecture like that. Possibly with a cane.
blade hidden inside the cane.
That's
Investigators believe the attack began in the upstairs bedroom. Mike was struck from behind and then dragged across the carpet to the bathroom, where the killer turned on the shower, likely to destroy forensic evidence.
Maybe. I mean, I don't even know if they would. Yeah, I guess they would have been considering that.
Mike's diamond wedding ring and expensive Breitling watch were missing. His Cadillac Escalade was later found abandoned at the same shopping mall where he'd met Stephen.
To me, this kind of sounds like a hit. It doesn't sound like a random meetup. It sounds like an orchestrated murder. And what I mean by that, I mean, it sounds like somebody paid him, or paid for this guy to die. You know, just how it happened. Weird, unexplained client. The weird scenario of, like, the meeting. Even though I think bypassing the company and going straight for a real estate agent is pretty common, the other details don't line up. And then to just find his car, like, at the docks, it seems like a hit.
Within 24 hours, his wallet turned up at Seattle's Coleman Dock, and someone used his cell phone to place a series of calls that led nowhere. For years,
that means they traced the calls and there's nothing to it. It was like to places where they couldn't verify who it was they called or why they called. Like, you know, burner phones, normal stuff, bills. Yeah, probably not bills because they could track that, but, you know, like a convenience store or something.
The case went cold. Then, in 2011, a decade later, a breakthrough came through DNA evidence. It pointed to Gary Kruger, a former Seattle police officer turned career criminal, but Kruger was already dead. His life...
This guy got drowned, I think. He, like, drowned trying to escape or something from a crime of his.
His story was chilling. A Vietnam veteran and former cop, Kruger was known for excessive force and eventually forced into
This is what happened when you don't give people PTSD the help they need.
Retirement. After a failed career in real estate, he turned to bank robbery and was suspected of contract.
I'm going to say he's going to say contract killing, but also if he was a failed real estate agent, it could be the motive of jealousy as well.
Killings throughout the 1980s and 1990s. The link to Mike Emmert came through a bizarre 2010 home invasion. Kruger and an accomplice had attacked orthopedic surgeon Dr. Craig McAllister's family. The botched crime ended when both men drowned in Lake Washington.
This happened in 2010. But maybe you think they're thwarted by, like, a little kid with some paint buckets.
Trying to escape. When Kruger's DNA was entered into CODIS, it matched evidence found in Mike's Escalade. Investigators believe Kruger was working as a professional hitman, and someone had hired him to kill Mike Emmert. But who and why remains...
Who does it benefit? I mean, obviously I don't got any evidence, but I'd look to where the money goes.
a mystery. No client was ever identified, no motive was ever uncovered, and to this day, no one knows why a respected real estate agent was marked.
Money. Typical, like, human stuff. Greed, money, jealousy, envy.
For death. The case is still open, but the person who ordered the hit, the shadow behind the crime, has never been caught.
At least the murderer is dead.
On June 30th, 2015, 18-year-old Rosalita Rose Longy knocked on her grandmother's door in Wapato, Washington. It was 10 p.m. She was high again. Her grandmother, Verlyn, who'd raised her since infancy, followed her strict house rule. No one under the influence was allowed inside.
Probably not the best rule to have, but I can understand why you'd do it if you had like a history of that sort of issues in your family.
I said, "Baby, you've got to go. If I'd known it was the last time I'd see you."
It's not your fault, Grandma. You know what, man? I'm gonna say it. Like, I have so much empathy for you, but it's not your fault. In the end, it's the fault of the murderer. The part you played was so minor.
Her, I would have opened the door. Rose walked off into the warm summer night and was never seen again. Her story began with struggle. Born on February 4th, 1997, Rose had surgery at just 10 days old from a condition called stridor, which made breathing nearly impossible. Her grandmother flew from Montana to be at her side. From that moment on, Verlyn became her guardian, legally and emotionally.
Must have been some problems in the parents.
They lived together on the Yakima Reservation, where Rose grew into a bright, curious child. She loved babies, excelled in math and art, and dreamed of becoming a nurse or joining the army. But by age 16, things began to unravel. Rose fell in with the wrong crowd.
You know, there's so much time at 16. I wouldn't even judge her on this. Like, there's so many 16-year-olds that do stupid shit, you know what I mean?
She started using drugs, and the once promising student began drifting between treatment centers, friends' homes, and her boyfriend Isaiah's place. Still, she always came back to Verlyn, at least when she was sober. That final day followed a familiar pattern. Rose came by in the afternoon, clearly under the influence. Verlyn gently turned her away, reminding her of the rules. Hours later, she returned, softer, hesitant, and knocked. When Verlyn asked who it was, the answer came, Rose. But she was still high, and Verlyn, holding her boundary, didn't open the door. No one has seen her since. Rose became one of the dozens of Native women who've gone missing from the Yakima Reservation, which holds the highest number of missing persons of any tribal jurisdiction in Washington State.
It's just awful in general. But it's not your fault, Grandma. It's not your fault.
More than 30 indigenous women have vanished or been murdered there in recent years. Verlyn never stopped searching. She combed homeless camps, shelters, and treatment facilities. She heard dark rumors that Rose was beaten, stuffed in a trunk, buried alive in White Swan. She reports every lead to the tribal police and the FBI, but none have led to her granddaughter. The tragedy deepened in 2017. Rose's boyfriend, Isaiah Andrews, who some believe knew what happened, was shot and killed outside his home in Wapato. Verlyn believes he was silenced. Rose would be
It could be. It's hard to know.
28 years old now. Her younger sister, Michaela, still asks, "Grandma, when is my sister coming home?" Verlyn doesn't have
I don't think she still says that anymore. Let's not lie.
an answer, but she's never stopped looking for the child she raised, the child she loved, the one who knocked on the door and disappeared.
I'm sorry that that happened to you.
On October 12th, 2022, 31-year-old Hannah Rose Walker was found dead in a shallow creek near Trout Lake, Washington. She was naked with abrasions and bruises covering her body.
That's probably how I'll find. That's probably how I'll end up being found dead, naked and covered in bruises. Of my own making, though. You know, I'm sure this off.
The last person to see her alive was a 67-year-old man named Jeremy G., who'd taken her to the creek for a swim. Hannah was an experienced swimmer.
Jeremy G, huh? Sus.
The water was calm and just 2 feet deep. Authorities ruled it an accidental.
I don't even think I don't think you can swim in 2 feet of water. You could drown in 2 feet of water for sure, but you can't swim in it.
drowning. But the circumstances surrounding Hannah's final hours tell a much different story, one marked by red flags, delays, and unanswered questions. Just
Let's
days
hear it.
earlier, Hannah had been reeling from a domestic violence incident involving her ex-boyfriend Ricky. He'd been arrested in Portland
Fucking
after a
Ricky,
heated
man.
altercation, but was released without charges when Hannah
Strangulation,
didn't
huh?
follow up with the district attorney's office. 2 days later, she left town with Jeremy G., an older man she knew, and headed to his vacation cabin near Trout Lake. On a
I hate to say it, man. It, when these women don't get the help they need, they almost always go to, not these women, women in this situation. They just go to the nearest refuge that they find. So if you have a woman like this in your life and you're a parent or whatever, welcome them back in and be that place of refuge so they don't go into another bad person, you know?
October 12th, the pair arrived at the creek around 2:30 p.m. They laid out a sheet by the water and Hannah went for a swim. According to Jeremy, the last time he saw her was around 3:30 or 4 p.m. swimming downstream. When she didn't return, he waited and then finally called 911 at 6:48 p.m. When Deputy Tony Warren
long is
arrived,
that?
Jeremy led him to their setup, a towel, Hannah's phone, and the sheet still spread on the bank. Her swimsuit was found 75 yards away in the tall grass, and next to it, boot prints. Yet Hannah had been barefoot. No boots were ever
Yeah,
recovered.
not suspicious.
And then they found her body, face down in the shallow creek, less than 50 feet wide, barely
Wow.
moving. It was clear something was wrong. An autopsy would later reveal DNA under Hannah's fingernails from an
It's just, what if it was just a dude, man? This could be just a crime of opportunity. But because if it had been, you know, her ex or whatever, it would have been his DNA because obviously he's in the system.
unidentified person. A sexual assault kit confirmed semen in her vaginal canal, yet investigators reportedly never
Wow.
collected DNA samples from any potential
Well, that's fucking retarded.
suspects, including Jeremy G.
Jeremy G and Ricky are prime suspects, man.
Worse still, Hannah's mother wasn't notified of her daughter's death until 3 days later.
That is probably normal. Nah, I mean, Nick, probably.
Only after she called to request a welfare check. The autopsy wasn't conducted until 9 days after Hannah's death, despite protocols requiring
Now that's a problem.
it within 5 days unless delayed by court order. In January 2023, at the request of Sheriff Bob Songer, Jeremy G. was asked to take a polygraph. His response through his attorney was direct.
On the advice of counsel, I will not take a polygraph test at this time.
Polygraph tests aren't, they're not reliable, you know? So, it doesn't really matter what they say.
Despite these troubling details, the Klickitat County Sheriff's Office officially closed the case, ruling Hannah's death an accident. But to those who knew her, and anyone who looks closely, that ruling raises more questions.
Well, shit, man. That's been 3 more unsolved mysteries from Washington. If you enjoyed it, or found it interesting like I do, if you like my content or lack thereof sometimes, like in interesting things, leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, just leave a comment on what you would like to see me react to next time, or a video link, whatever. Send me an email. You know, use social media. Get in contact with me. Let me know what you guys would like someone to see, and I'll be that someone. All right, have a good day or good night at this time, or a good day if you watch it tomorrow, and I'll see you next time.